Okay, good evening, everyone. This is John Asher in Leesburg, Virginia, for a very, very special national activist call, LaRouche PAC activist conference call here on the 21st of May, 2015. And this evening we have with us none other than the founder and head of our movement, Lyndon LaRouche, who has something to say to all of you, all of us here, all the assembled activists of the LaRouche political movement. So I'm hoping, Lynn, that you're on, and I am not going to make any further introduction, and I hope that you can just go ahead and make your remarks and take the discussion from here.
That's what I understand the arrangement is, and I shall try to fulfill my duties accordingly. I understand that there will be, my understanding is that there will be one person each time who has a statement, discussion, etc., and then they'll dump me from that point, and somebody else will come in and also take up the back while the others watch. And that should be going on for, I think, some period of time this evening. It will not be a very short thing. I will try to be to the point, but there may be discussions and questions raised which demand more fully developed arguments. Okay, so I'm ready, and you can start the process as far as I'm concerned now, and I'll take, it's like the man in the boxer in the ring. I will take on each time.
All right.
And you all know I am.
All right. Well, Lynn, let me ask you this. Do you want to make any preliminary statement here about what you've been focusing on in the last couple of days in terms of the potential of getting Obama impeached or anything of that nature, or should I just open it right up for questions from people who are on the call?
I'll give it an opening. I think it would be helpful that I do that. Okay. What has happened is something which most people, even there, don't know about yet. Tony Pappert, who I think you all know and revere, that has presented a document which identifies me officially according to our program, and I think that will probably serve well to locate exactly where I am and also where our organization is at this time. There are some things that are breaking developments, like the attempt to the mass murder of the citizens of California, which is coming from the governor of that state, who's out there to kill practically everybody in California, which is not a nice idea, but that's what's on the process now. So that's where we are, and I'm in the middle of this stuff internationally. Helga's also, as you know, in this. We're a pair, as most people know, and we work together, and we work together a lot with a lot of people in this, in both New York City area, other areas adjacent to that, and down here in the dredges of this present location where I'm stated today. So let's go ahead and just go ahead with the thing. Everything.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. I'm going to turn on at this point, Lynn. I have a button here. Let me just tell you that we have about 300 people on the line with us at this point, and I'm going to turn on the Q&A queue, and let me just say what Lynn was referring to, which we got an outline from Tony Pappert earlier today, is a document which I believe is going to be the basis of next week's issue of Executive Intelligence Review, which Tony Pappert outlined us today, some elements of this which really highlighted the question of Lyndon LaRouche's historic role in the presidency, and how that was broken in 1998 with the attacks on Bill Clinton, and I'm sure Lynn will have more to say about that. So what I would suggest to people now, so you understand what our procedure is this evening, Lynn has opened this up for any questions you want to throw at him, and so what we're going to do here is please at least give us your name and where you're from so Lynn can get a sense of the geographical participation in our call here this evening. And if you have a question for Mr. LaRouche, what you do is you hit *6 on your phone, and that will put you in the queue. And I know that that there's going to be probably a couple of reports coming up from people in Manhattan, Lynn, who have indicated to me earlier that they want to talk some about also the focal point around the event coming up on June the 6th in Manhattan, which is a special national focus for our organization, the building for that event. So I'm going to take the first question from one of our activists here, Lynn, right now. Here's the first person.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Can you hear me?
Speak up.
Go ahead.
You're weak. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. This is Jim from Michigan, and I wanted to find out. Yes, I would like.
Can we get a little more? Can we get a little more push?
Lynn, what I'll do is if it's too weak, I'll repeat it so that I can make sure that you know what he says. Okay.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Excellent.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, I was wondering if you could give us any indication on Martin O'Malley's move towards throwing his hat in the ring for the presidency, and if you and this organization have any direct contact with his movement.
Okay, Lynn, you say basically, did you were able to catch that?
Yes.
Okay.
The point is, now, you will notice that what we've gone through on the O'Malley case, and I've qualified this, and it's also in print for circulation in an in-print document, which is Tony Papert collected and presented this evening earlier. That part is absolutely clear. We have a policy, we have a global policy, in which features are included, such as California, the people of California and beyond, are now in a process of being subjected to mass media methods of destroying the citizenry of California. And so, therefore, if the policy of the present governor of California is allowed to continue, you'll have an increasing rate of death and torture among the citizens of California. So we're at a point where we're in a fighting situation in California. But if you look on pages now, you will find that this is actually a policy which is more or less nationwide. And therefore, so we have a major fight, and a fight against a crook who is called the governor of California, who is called for the mass murder, in fact, of the citizens of California. And we don't like that, and we are going to do what we can to prevent such consequences from affecting people in California or in the United States in general.
Okay. All right. Got another person up here. Here we go.
Good.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, Lynn. This is Anthony Witcher from Lake Arrowhead, California. And I've got several questions swirling through my head. One's about democratic politics, namely, how does it look for Bill Clinton at this point? Is he going to be helping the progressive portion of the Democratic Party get someone like O'Malley, or is he backing Hillary Clinton at this point? That's one question.
No, Billy.
What?
Yep.
Why don't you Tony? Why don't you hang on, and Lynn will answer that? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the problem is that Mrs. Clinton is probably a lost cause. She's made too many mistakes. She's made too many submissions to Obama, and she's not really qualified to come through the process of being nominated or elected as President of the United States. That's the situation now. The reality on O'Malley's case is O'Malley was always in his political career and in the intermediate periods. But what he's had, he functioned as a governor earlier. He functioned on the basis of going along. and he adapted himself to winning elections. Then the time came when he shifted his orientation. Now, that doesn't mean that his personal views about life in general has been radically changed in a perversive way. What it means is that he has gone up to the times when what he pursued as a candidate for election in earlier periods, he finds no longer adequate. Because what's happened is, the situation now is the President of the United States is an enemy of the United States. That's a fact. And the Republicans are generally, with some nice exceptions, pretty much bums. And Obama is a menace. He's an evil figure, a very evil figure. And therefore, you've got the problem with Hillary is she's adapted too much to become a subject of Obama. And that's what ruined her when she went over and accepted a position under Obama, that Obama ate her up. She is no longer the same person she was when she left, to join him. Now, I had talks with her at the time that she had entered her present position, or the president she lost, or gave up. But since now she is not anywhere near competence for running for the office of president. And obviously you have, in general, you don't have other people who you would recommend to become presidents, either because you don't know they have the qualifications or because you know they don't have the qualifications, such as the Bushes, traditionally. So that's where we are. And so we're at a point where the O'Malley option is the only one which is significantly on the table right now for realization in the interest of the citizens of the United States.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to take the next person up. And I would ask people just to ask one question so we can get as many people in here as possible. Here's the next person. Okay.
Hey, John and Lynn, this is Dan from Wisconsin. How are you doing?
Well, not badly, considering my antiquity and my occasional sneezing sessions and things like that.
I want to congratulate you. You were the first one to call Scott Walker up here in Wisconsin a fascist when nobody had the guts to do so, and they still don't have to do so. But you kind of answered my question already about Hillary, but what about Bernie Sanders? What's his shortcomings that he doesn't qualify?
He's not really there. He doesn't represent an active presentation, which is, this time is necessary. At this point in life, anybody who is running to be a president should, in the normal course of events, have presented a program which meets the challenge of the reality that we in the United States and in the world in general face. And therefore, I don't think he's a viable candidate, at least not so far, and I've seen no signs that he is a viable candidate yet so far. Maybe he will change, but pending a change, I think he's not a very good candidate.
Okay, all right. So take another person up here.
Hello, my name is Glenn from Washington State. Lyndon, we met in 2009.
I have trouble hearing.
Okay, I'll repeat it. Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, my question, Lyndon, is I've given some information to Stuart Battle to be given to you. It's about George Bush 41, and I'd like to make certain that you're receiving it, because you and I think a lot alike about his character in the British monarchy. But anyway, he's the first illegal alien to set in the White House, and I can prove that. And I wish that you would correspond with Stuart with that information. I'd like to thank you for being a patriot.
Okay, good. No, I think we're in a good situation. I've always had, especially normally and clearly since the beginning of the 1970s. Since that time, I've been a prominent public figure and a candidate for the presidency since that period of time. That has never really changed. And I think now that, despite the fact that I'm a little more aged and not frisky and running around the way I would if I were younger, but the fact is I probably am one of the best political authorities operating in the United States today. But I have to operate from a more modest personal position in terms of things, because I just have to do what I have to do as a contribution to making sure that the policy of the United States does match the requirements of the United States under these conditions.
Okay. All right, the next person up here.
This is Larry Kruger in Spokane, Washington, Northeast Washington State. I'm going on a different tangent, and I hope I'm not going to embarrass myself, but what do we do about the Islamic caliphate, or at least what they're claiming is a caliphate, over there in the Middle East?
Okay.
I can answer that. I think I can answer that directly and explicitly. First of all, the Islamic movement based in that area of center is only a tool of the British monarchy. It's a mass murderously inclined instrument of mass murder. That's what the Saudi operation is. The Saudi operation is also the leading factor in genocide throughout that entire region. That is around the area of the Mediterranean Sea, Mediterranean area. And so therefore this is a thing which is controlled top down and in great detail by the British monarchy, the British Empire and the monarchy. So it's merely a tool of the British terrorist system. And the sooner we get rid of that, the sooner people will get a chance to live. There's nothing we cannot tolerate a continuation of a British system which uses that system as itself as the means for running policy in the Mediterranean region.
Okay, all right. Next person up here. Okay.
Yep.
This is William in Denver, and
I'm having a hearing problem.
Yeah, well, William, can you say your question, because your sound is very light.
Well, okay.
It's light from here. That's what the problem is.
No, I understand. I can barely hear it also. But go ahead. What is it? What's the question?
Well, anyway, not to change the subject, but I'm aware of a rumor that the U.S. is about to install some anti-missile defense system in Ukraine.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. I'll ask that to him. When he was asking about whether the United States was going to install an anti-missile system in Ukraine, that was his question.
Well, that's an attempt, and that is the intention of Obama. Of Obama. Obama is a British agent. He's got a very bad history, actually. He's a very evil person. He should never have been a president of the United States, and he should not continue to be a president of the United States at this point. The danger to the United States and its people and civilization generally that he represents, Obama represents right now, one of the greatest threats to the existence of human beings on this planet today.
Okay. All right. We've got, I think, someone perhaps from New York. We'll see. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. LaRouche. Hi, this is Eugene Bronstein. from the Bronx, New York City. I wanted I want to ask you about ISIS or ISIL. How can we militarily defeat them now? Because they're a real threat to the whole world with their terrorist organization. How can the U.S. and the world militarily get rid of them right now?
Thank you.
No, the point is what we need to do is, the problem is that you've got a bunch of people in the Congress and so forth who really are not coming up to the standard of performance which the United States desperately needs at this time. Many members of the Congress are incompetent. There are members of the Congress who are also valid, very valid people, very serious people. But we have a lot of people who are not. The other problem is, in general, that the tendency is among the candidates often is that they're opportunists, and they act on the basis of what they can get for themselves in their prospective incomes, their promotions, what they can sell out to do, what they try to sell themselves out to do, that kind of stuff. And we have a very poor quality of moral performance among the members of the Congress, not because they are inherently bad, but because they tend to capitulate to what they feel the pressures are, which determine their opportunities for promotion.
Okay, absolutely. All right, we're going to have a wide geographical range here tonight, Lynn. I got another question coming up. All right. Hello?
Hello.
Yes?
You go ahead.
Hi, this is Jim Moore in Alaska. And
oh, good.
I had a question about, I guess, priorities. I sense that our number one priority right now is we've got to get a restoration of the presidency of the United States, get Mr. Obama out. And it seems like there's a lot of things all stacking up that should make that easy. But I'm always amazed and surprised that he's still in there. I didn't think he'd last that long. The lies about Benghazi now and the highlighting of the 28 pages. Numerous impeachable offenses, the whole, warfare, the terrible foreign policy. We've got to get him out of there.
Yep.
But I see that, a very important flank here with this water crisis going on in California. And I sense, I'm in Alaska here and been kind of hoping and organizing toward the development of NWAPA. We'd love to develop the Arctic region. There's so much potential looking forward with the BRICS development for Alaska. But the NWAPA seems to be put on the back burner. And I understand that the crisis is now, and ionization, nuclear desalinization, all of these things would be very important first steps. So anyway, I wonder if Mr. LaRouche could comment about the priorities.
Okay, Lynn, did you catch all that? What he said?
I got it.
Okay.
It was difficult, but I got it.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yes. Well, the answer really is a little bit of shift in the subject the way you present it. First of all, you cannot make a deductive approach to solutions to the problems which face us now. That most of the important issues are not on the table, and they are deliberately kept off the table. Let's say the case of the area which you're probably more close to, California, Northern California in particular, because that part of California is actually the most viable right now, in this time. But what's the policy? You have a corruption of the governorship in California, in which the heir of a qualified leader in California is a piece of nuisance, and worse. Now what they're doing, and this has two aspects to it. One is what these guys are doing, the ones in power, the governor and so forth. He's a useless and worse than useless creature. He's nothing like his father. He's a bum. He's an opportunist. He's a prostitute in the sense, a political prostitute. And he comes from a certain circle of prostitution in California, which came after the period of the father of the current governor. The earlier figure was a commendable person in general and did useful things. The son has been a tragedy for both California and for the United States in general because of his role and influence and what's going on now. Now, the problem is this. The argument on water, and I'm sure you're aware of the whole water problem as it's being presented now. The practical intention is to reduce the population of the United States and of other nations. In other words, it's a plan of mass murder of people in various parts of the world. And it's not just some people being murdered, it's a great majority of the population of the transatlantic region and beyond. The intention is for the policy in Europe, the governing policy, the British Empire most specifically. The British Empire is a genocide case organization. It's a pro-genocide case, and always has been under this reign. So the issues you confronted with are not the real issues. They are shadows of a really ugly set of issues. Now, right now, the issue of the water question, and the water question on the United States and across the transatlantic region, is the issue, a functional issue right now, is the issue of survival of human beings, the citizens of the United States and elsewhere. The British Empire has long had a policy of genocide, and the current incumbency of the Queen and her consort are advocates of a kind of genocide worse than that of Adolf Hitler. And they should be looked at as a successors or a continuation of the principles of Adolf Hitler. Hitler was just unfortunate in being defeated, but the British are still there, and they were the same thing that Hitler represented in terms of their policy. It's a little different. Saudi Arabia is the key instrument and tool of the British Empire. And that's the case. Europe is terrified, in general, terrified by a fear of the influence of the British Empire. That's a fact. What the good side, which is there, is that we have a new tendency in Eurasia. This means China is a leader of the world. China is the most powerful and biggest nation in the world in terms of citizenship, and is growing fastly. India has come up rapidly since the new administration put in place. Similar kinds of views exist in various parts of the world. South America, there's certain nations in South America which are coming up again. So we're looking at a point where we can throw out, expel the evil led by the British Empire then and now. The British Empire under this monarchy in particular is the most evil thing that mankind has experienced in a very long time. That has to be defeated. It has to be defeated by nations. There are many other things about this, but the key thing we have to recognize is this. There is a change in the water supply in the Trans-Pacific region and across into Europe. The water supplies needed by the population of North America in particular and streaming beyond that is a crucial matter right now. The threat to human life in the United States on the water issue is one of the leading issues. This is matched by the fact that the California governor and others are actually advocates of genocide, just as much as Adolf Hitler was. A little bit different in approach, but the effect is pretty much the same. So people the governor of California is a menace, and a lot of people in the Congress are also menaces on that same account. Their intention is to reduce the population of the United States greatly at an accelerating rate, to kill off citizens of the United States in particular. Why? Over the water issue and the food issue, which are closely related. So therefore, what we need to do is get rid of those skunks who are threatening the lives of most of you. Most of the citizens of the United States are now under a very serious threat of death coming from these sources. The water supply is being cut off. Now, the water supply being cut off in California and other locations means early mass death within the population of California. And the present governor of California is a leader in implementing that policy. So the question is, are we going to fight against these forces, the so-called green forces, the green policy? And the green policy, which has been, popular by many places today, is the keystone for mass murder of the population of the United States and of other parts of the world, around the world. And that's what we have to deal with.
Okay. All right. That's clear. So let me take another person up. Okay.
Yes, hi. Hello, Lynn. This is Alvin, another Bronx chorus voice calling in from this Manhattan Project.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'm a part of the so-called Manhattan Project, and we've been trying to organize ourselves now around something new and exciting that we've missed in the past, I think, and that is reaching out to the working class of the New York City area. And I wanted to ask for your guidance on this new potential for us. It seems that yes, and I'm a product of it, that they're in a lot of ways in bad shape. Yet there's some really good people, and they need to be truly organized. And these are the folks I think can help us win the day on a local and national level and spread. But it is, of course, a real challenge and requires a lot of patience. And I was wondering if you could help us here in New York as to how we can begin to rally these individuals to our cause.
Well, New York essentially gives the most opportune opening for success. As a matter of fact, since the October of last year, I have shifted the policy of our organization nationally. I don't know if all people have caught up with it, but that's what I've been doing. And in order to build around New York City, that is Alexander Hamilton's legacy, as opposed to those from the southern parts of the United States who were presidents who weren't worth much. And we have a lot of presidents on the record who ain't worth much, who never were. Only a few of them. So that's the general problem that we face. And that's the problem we have to look at and deal with. So what we're doing right now, and what I've been doing since my policy turned in, as saying, here's the solution. Go back to Alexander Hamilton. The principle of economic development and policy of the United States is that which was formulated by Alexander Hamilton. the Alexander Hamilton policy, which is the policy intrinsic to all competent people in the New York area. That's it. That's the center of the United States, is New York City. And you have a spill back from New England, for example, and some other locations. But the basic thing that here is the law. The conception of law is that which was continued by Alexander Hamilton. And it is the Hamiltonian principle which we are applying to Manhattan. We're not fully out of it, but we have picked out those kinds of people who represent the natural heirs of the policy typified by Alexander Hamilton, and the economic policy and the social policy, because there were very few presidents in the United States during that time, and even up into the present time, very few presidents who really deserved to be presidents. And the problem is most of them have been weak or just unable or rather stupid. And so therefore, the way we can organize and rebuild this nation is by understanding what forces in the course of the history of this nation represents the policy making, the policy shaping of the United States Constitution. And the most reliable point for that, single point, is probably a certain section of the Manhattan population and people around it. They are the actual implicit center of the organization needed around New York City. Despite all the other problems that exist in New York City, there's a very powerful, large minority of citizens in the vicinity of Manhattan who represent the potential leadership en masse of the recovery and rebuilding of the United States. And that's what I'm committed to. This means that we have to understand not only what that segment of the population means, we have to understand what the means are that we have to apply to make that thing work. In other words, this is the point. When you look at the history of the United States and the presidency, most of the presidencies of the United States were tragedies, or worse. There have been a few great presidents, exceptional presidents, but in the majority, the presidency is usually occupied by a skunk.
Okay. All right. Okay, we got more discussion here, Lynn. Here's the next person up.
Hello?
All right.
Oh, am I on the line?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to know why we have an 1848 railroad system in the United States of America with the same gauge track that they had when they first put the train across the United States. When countries even like the Soviet Union has wide track railroad that can carry much more cargo, much more passengers. Why don't we combine the interstate highway system right away with a railroad system to connect and possibly make our country much more economically sound, and also reduce auto traffic and the cost of moving food and passengers.
Okay. Where are you calling from, sir?
I'm calling from New York. I'm calling from the Bronx, Pelham Parkway area. JD is my name.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm aware of these things, very acutely aware of these things, and painfully acutely aware of these things. You have to look at the history of the United States, and there's a very specific characteristic which should call our attention. That is that what has happened is that except for a handful of presidents of the United States, a relative handful, most of the presidents were skunks. Why? Because the British Empire, directly and indirectly, as in the case of the Confederacy, which was a British instrument. Much of these nations, from Virginia on down, have never had a record of true patriotism toward the United States. They are still, in the main, Southerners, and they are corrupt in that way. Not that they intend to be corrupt, but they don't know any better. And the problem has been we've had only a few presidents in the history of the United States presidency who were fit to occupy the position of president. You just look at the record. About a dozen, slightly more than a dozen presidents were actually qualified to be presidents. Most of them weren't. They were either incompetent or they were maliciously incompetent. And so therefore we come to a point where we have to recognize that the United States is not just the United States in name. The point is we are at the point where a new development is occurring around the world. It's called the BRICS. It includes Russia, it includes China, it includes India, it includes some leading nations in South America, and so forth. These are the nations which have moral viability. They may not be perfect, but they have, on balance, a moral option. Europe is a disaster. Not because Europe has to be a disaster, but because it is made to be a disaster. And we would like to correct that. These are the realities. So we come to a point where we need to provide a leadership, and it's not a matter of how many people are involved. There has to be a leadership inside the United States and beyond, which presents to the future of mankind the options, available options, which can remedy the disaster which has been centered globally around the British Empire since as long as the United States has existed. Therefore, the destruction of the British Empire and what it represents, including the Saudis are nothing but mass murderers who operate under the orders of the Queen. And we have most of the European nations have a streak of cowardice in them, which is really awesome. So what is needed is what we can do in terms of what the legacy of the United States is. And the legacy of the United States is a real one. It can be reactivated and brought forth as a force if we want to do it. And that role of the United States and the people of the United States who represent that role have the means available to them. And I'll just be concrete. Let's take the case of O'Malley. Right now, O'Malley was in a sense, for some time, an ordinary presidential candidate, unqualified to be a president. But in a recent period, he changed his role, not his intentions, but his role. Because when he was running for president before, he was operating on the basis of a politically practical approach to politics. Now when the crisis has come in, the Obama case has come in, O'Malley has gone beyond that, and with some other leading figures in our system, has recognized that there has to be a change. And if you look at what he's done recently, you see those change visibly, those changes. Therefore, we can say that O'Malley, right now, is the clearest case of a potentially qualified president right now. All of the others are either doubtful or known to be incompetent for this purpose. And that's the way we have to think. Now, what I have to do, because I have a special role, I've been an international troublemaker against the British Empire for most of my life, and proud of it. But what we have to do is we have to make our people in the United States and elsewhere sensitive and sensible of what we can do by our legacy. And what we have to do is understand what O'Malley represents at this point. O'Malley is the only prospective presidential candidate on the scene now, presently. There could be changes. But right now, he's the only person who's really qualified to become the President of the United States. And that's because of a combination of his his virtues and his expediencies and all these kinds of things. But he's the only person fit to be a presidential candidate right now. None of the others are qualified, either because of their weaknesses or because of what the policies are that they adopt.
Okay, I'll take the next person. And by the way, Lynn, I think O'Malley has indicated he's going to be announcing his candidacy officially on May 30th, so that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. So let me take another person up here. Okay.
Hello, this is Dennis from Arizona, and I wanted to bring up, I've been listening to some YouTube videos, and it brought to mind what FDR said, that presidents are elected, they're not elected, they're selected. And when you look at what this video brought to my mind was it shows that, what we talked about, there's a cabal up there that controls the military-industrial complex, the press, the financial oligarchy. And with that, and they seem to say, here we're giving the Republicans and Democrats, who are all part of our deal. We have an A team on one and a B team on the other, and the A team may be a Republican one election cycle and change for the next one. How can we overcome that? Because it seems like most of the people don't care. So we have this group that selects, and they give you two choices, neither of which is worth anything.
Okay, Linda, were you able to hear that, or should I repeat that?
Barely, but I think I got the inkling of it. A lot of the things dropped out in terms of my auditory.
Well, I'll just summarize it. What he said was that he was looking at a video which indicated that presidents are they are not elected; they are selected by a cabal behind the scenes. And his question was that since that seems to go back and forth between Democrats and Republicans who are selected by a secret cabal, how do we break that pattern, and that the population doesn't seem to care that presidential candidates and presidents are selected? How do we break the pattern of the manipulation of the selection of presidential candidates? That was his question.
My view on that is that I continue to do what I do, because I don't tolerate any of that crap. I recognize what the corruption is in the United States. I recognize the weak-kneed character of our leading politicians. That doesn't mean they're bad people by intention. It means that they use the word, you have to be practical. And when somebody says as a candidate for something or other, or member of Congress, you've got to be practical, I know they're not honest. They may wish to be honest. They may wish to do something good, but they tell you that wouldn't be practical. And therefore the belief in practicality instead of truth is the problem. And we've got to a point now where the people of the United States, right now, based on what we can stimulate around the idea of Manhattan, around New York City. New York City is absolutely crucial to save the United States. It always was. This was defined very clearly by Alexander Hamilton. And if you look at the Hamiltonian policy as he laid it out, particularly his four principles of economy, the only thing that's ever done any good for the economy of the United States has been based on consistency with the Hamiltonian policy. And you can look that up in the four statements he made and what he did. That's why he was assassinated by the British Empire, because he was a threat. He was a threat to the British Empire. And when he was murdered, we didn't have a decent president in the United States until just after Alexander, our President John Adams. So that's been the history. Lincoln was another case. Franklin Roosevelt was a major case, which mysteriously those guys got pushed out of the way or assassinated one way or the other. And the problem has been that the people who have courage or don't have enough courage in order to defend those presidents or presidential candidates who are qualified to lead the nation to its proper destiny. And it's the cowardice of the practical members of society who give in and thus open the gates for tyrannies of people like the Bushes. I mean, the Bush family, that is the followers of Prescott Bush, the Hitler backer, Prescott Bush, his family is the one that created the worst evils of the 20th century. And yet people are still voting for Bushes. And I would say, Moses would say, burn the Bushes.
Okay. All right. Okay, we've got another next question up here. Okay.
Hi, this is Jim. Hi, this is Jim from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Can you speak up, Jim, a bit? Try to speak up.
Yeah, this is Jim from St. Paul, Minnesota. You touched on some of this, but more specifically, given the cohesion of the BRICS countries in their financial and economic development, including the banks, etc., are they as cohesive in their military backbone as, say, Putin is, who's really getting the pop shots aimed at him, given the ABM systems and Poroshenko's threats, and just how close is Putin to telling these guys enough is enough?
Okay, I think it's time to give you some bad news. But it's not necessarily bad news in the long run, because accepting the fact that it is bad news may prompt more people in the United States in particular to recognize they have to do something to change things. And the problem in the United States often is that because of the educational system, let me break off there and come back to that. The problem has been that there was a turn in the history of civilization which came at the point of the beginning of the 20th century. The 20th century was a period in which the moral and related qualities of the citizen of the United States and of Europe generally was degenerate, and has been increasingly degenerate ever since that time. There have been fluctuations like Franklin Roosevelt's presidency and a few other things. Our other presidents, a few other our presidents who were good. I've worked with some presidents who were very good. They may not have been the best, but they were good, and I have worked with them. And I regret the fact that they were knocked out of control and the Bushes were put in instead. And mostly the Bushes have been the problem. And I would say that Moses would say, burn the Bushes. Get them out of the political system. That's the problem. We are faced with the fact that the government of the United States is mismanaged. And it's mismanaged because of opportunism and cowardice. But the more particular thing is that the idea, the principle that was set into place with the beginning of the 20th century, in that time, the United States and its people, its education, its system has been in a progress of generally steady rottenness. That is the incompetence of the minds of our citizens, and I mean all layers of citizens. They're incompetent. They don't know they're incompetent, but they say they've got to do it because it's necessary for their benefit to go along, to get along. In other words, go along to get along is the essential satanic principle. Go along to get along. Instead of going, say, you have to respond to what you can understand to be the necessary laws, the necessary policies of nations and of ourselves in particular. The corruption of our nation is terrible and has been increasing ever since recently, since the first Bushes were brought into the presidency. The children and grandchildren of Prescott Bush, the Hitler backer, who was the grandfather, shall we say, of the Bush family politically. And that's what the problem is. And the need is to understand what we must eliminate from this legacy, because there have been very few presidents were qualified actually to be entrusted to the presidency. Very few. And that's been the legacy. And the British Empire has been the agency which chiefly has maintained that policy. The assassination of Lincoln, for example. Assassinations of presidents were always done by the British Empire. Every assassination of a U.S. president was done by the British Empire. And yet people sit and they ignore that, or they pretend to ignore it. The question is we have to build ourselves intellectually into a body of people who understands what it must do to save this nation and to realize the intention built into that nation. Very few Americans have any understanding of how the system works. They believe that you've got to be practical. Be practical. Be practical. Well, being practical is being stupid. Because what you're doing is you're compromising what you should know, in order to be accepted by society otherwise. The guts to see the truth of the situation is the great weakness. And the incompetence of our educational system. Don't kid yourself. The educational system of the United States, since the beginning of the 20th century, has been a rotten education that has destroyed the ability of most citizens of the United States to be able to think clearly. And that's one of the things you've got to really work on.
Okay, that's a good challenge for everybody, Lynn. I'm going to take another person up. We have a long line of questions here, Lynn, so we'll keep going. All right.
Okay.
All right, so here we have another person. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
For Clyde in Apple Valley, California. First of all, I got to say, God bless you, Lynn, for everything that you're doing. I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
But I have a couple of concerns. Well, the other night, I didn't know whether or not we were going to be blown up or whatever, because these Russian bombers are flying over the coast of California. And now I understand that Jade Helm is taking over Walmart and using the empty Walmart to set up their FEMA camps, and they're looking to bring people like myself, and you know what, I can't even leave the country because I got family over here, and they're looking to march us in to these FEMA camps and destroy us. And that was my major concern about that. Are they going to be able to do that now? Because they're setting it up right at this moment.
I know they are. Exactly. The water issue is the key. What Obama is doing and what the governor of California is doing, unlike his father, who was a decent man and a good man. He may have had faults, but he was a good man. The son is no damn good at all, and has a record of being no damn good. And that's an ugly fact. And the weakness, you see how California has degenerated. And the water crisis in California is an example, a product of the kind of administration which California in particular has undergone under recent, heads of government in California. I mean, some of the people they brought in as governors in California were the worst monsters on the planet. Some of them were actually not actual Nazis who became, the governors of California. A real Nazi who had all kinds of sexual peculiarities and is also a movie star and did all kinds of evil things on the screen. So we have this problem. The only way you can deal with this problem, you've got to fight the evil. And that's what I do. Now, fighting the evil is not always a successful venture as such. But it's like putting out forest fires. You may not be successful in stopping the forest fires, because you got to take everything you can do and fight against the forest fire. And that's what we've got to do. You've got to have your courage, and you've got to have a sense of solidarity with not only our own nation of people, but also with other nations who have honest concerns. They may not always agree on what they think the solution is, but at least they have the intention of solving the problem. We have a situation now which is very promising. China is the leading power in terms of economics and rates of progress in the entire world. China is presently under this new regime in China. And China always had some of these elements in it, but you also had bad administrations also. But China now is the leading nation on the planet. That is leading in terms of morally, in terms of progress, rates of progress, and so forth. And all the problems they have are simply things which can be easily understood. India, which is practically following on the heels of what China is doing, typifies the process. You find also in certain parts of South America, you're finding optimistic trends in that part of the world, and options on that part of the world. So what we have to do is you have to work from a positive standpoint of trying to get solidarity with forces in the world who represent the positive viewpoint, apart from what Europe in general is a disaster. Why? Because it's just capitulated totally to the British Empire. The British Empire has actually poisoned Europe. And Russia, of course, has come out of this process, and Russia is now a power, a major power. China is a major power of the planet, a leading nation of the planet. India, a major nation of the planet. Other debate, Egypt is come to a revival, a very promising revival, and things like that. So we have to actually always go with, it's like fighting a war. And I've had some experience with, not that was fight out there shooting people, but I've also been involved in fighting wars. And I put a lot of risk in myself also sometimes in fighting wars. But we are fighters against this crap. And we're not enough of us. So I would hope to increase the number of people who are inclined under these present circumstances to realize we have to fight. You can't sit back and complain. You've got to find out some way. Either you fight or you find some friends of yours who will come out and do the leading of the fighting. That's the secret of this whole thing.
That's great, Lynn.
Inspire your neighbors.
I think that's a tremendous challenge for everybody on the call here this evening, Lynn. And just to mention it, my friends in New York, they know this, but I'll reiterate this. But in terms of what Lyndon LaRouche just said, in inspiring your fellow neighbors, we have a very big focal point coming up with the event in New York on June the 6th, which we want to turn into a national event, but I just mentioned that in terms of one of the focal points for our organizing, and I'll say this at the end of the discussion also. So we got more people in line here, Lynn. As long as you're willing to go on, I think people are ready to ask you questions. So you tell me how long you want to go, but I've got a lot more people in the line here.
Okay, until I faint, I'll be still working here.
Okay, all right. All right, here we go with the next one. Okay.
Hello, Lynn?
Yep.
Jesse Maven here of Klamath Falls, Oregon. I'm starting a relationship with a young German woman. Can you give me any advice?
I get my hearing devices were not functioning adequately at that moment. You can recast that so I can.
I can tell you what he said, Lynn. He said the gentleman said he's starting a relationship with a young German woman. Can you give him any advice?
Well, I would say you have to cultivate your insight into your options. I wouldn't want to make any blanket statement on that subject. I think some of the ladies of Germany also have worries. So you don't have to put it on the other side only. They also have worries. The point is, what we have to do is we have to make nations which are now frightened or which feel that they have to follow a track of corruption or opportunism, as it's called, and they don't have the guts to stand up for what they should know is right. They would say, well, I know that some people think this is right, but look, I'm a poor person. You've got to give me some breaks here. I can't do good things. I have to somehow, if I have to cheat a little bit, I'm going to cheat because I got to take care of me. So their sense of social outlook is rather impaired, and it's not really all their fault. You look at the conditions of life in most parts of Europe. Look at Spain. Look at Portugal. Look at Italy. Look at much of the conditions in France. Look at the conditions in many parts of Germany. Look at what's happening to the Greeks. Look at these issues. And obviously, these nations are terrified. They're crushed. And the opportunists are trying to parasitize their own neighbors and friends. What we have to do is we have to create a moral force of influence from among nations and groups of people who really understand that we have to fight to get rid of the British Empire, to shut down the Saudi Empire, which is nothing but an extension of the British Empire, and other kinds of scoundrels. We have some of the most evil, most clearly satanic people on the planet, which are centered in whole areas of the world, which used to have people who were not necessarily in the best condition, but at least had some sense of moral quality in their idea about the nature of mankind. What you're seeing now in the Middle East, you're seeing the most horrible kind of genocide is spreading throughout this whole region. What Obama did in North Africa, Obama is one of the most satanic, evil persons on this planet. That's a fact. And so therefore the poor guy out there, who's the ordinary citizen of some nation or another nation, what is this person able to do to fight against the evil represented by Saudi Arabia, which is nothing but a tool of the British Empire? They're evil, absolutely evil. And the President of the United States is absolutely evil, Obama. He's systemically evil. And he was put in power by the British Empire. And I could give you, if you wanted to go to it, the names of the people who did that. So the problem is we need people with the guts and also the mental temperament and knowledge to lead our people to resist this kind of corruption which has brought us to the system we're in right today. Look at the condition of the American citizens. Look at our citizens. What's happened to them? What's happened to our citizens? What's their standard of living? The typical citizen. Where's the employment? Where's the education? How many are drug addicts? How many are destroyed in one way or another? Well, how about all the black citizens of the United States in the southern region who have, like the case in the center of the area here? They don't have a chance. They once had an area which had great production, great productive capabilities, economic progress, and it's all garbage now. It's destroyed. It's destroyed by the Bush family. The Bush family is the instrument which has led in destroying the economy of the United States. And Prescott Bush was never any damn good.
Okay, we've got another person up here. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I think I can hear you. We can struggle along with this one.
Okay, this is Tommy Sawyer from Dayton, Texas.
Okay.
Can you hear me better there?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
It's weak. Okay. Let's struggle through this thing. See if we can get some intelligibility from the transmission.
You answered the first question I had in my mind about O'Malley. But what I wanted to ask is, now, is this ionization, is it active now? I mean, are they using this anywhere around Texas to, like, to bring...
Can you recast that, because I'm getting very...
Sure. Tom, go ahead. Is that your question?
Yeah, we're getting flooded out. I'm just wondering if they're tapping them rivers now. Texas is real big on privatization, and I know those are private companies that do that.
Right. Okay. I got the question. So Lynn, what he was asking is he was wondering if what Ben Deniston has been developing on ionization, if that's yet gone into effect anywhere.
Well, it's going into effect, but this is a complicated problem. It's a scientific effect, and it depends upon the breadth and depth of the implementation of the policy. What he's done so far is a revolution. It's a revolution which is necessary. It's a revolution which could save many parts of the nation. It could save California from the destruction which is hitting it now. It could be done. But the present governor of California will not let that happen. The present governor of California is prepared to commit genocide against the people of California. And don't kid yourself about that. It's what he is doing. This man is a genocidalist. And he doesn't belong in office. And these are the kinds of problems that we have to deal with. We have to actually fight the forces of evil. And I'm afraid the current governor of California has manifested himself explicitly out of his own mouth as an agent of evil on the water question and other things. And they plan to destroy, to commit genocide against people. The California governor has now committed a policy which is actually genocide against the people. And do you want to let that happen? Do you want to let that go? Do you want to allow that to continue? Do you want to support it? Do you want to say, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes? Or do you want to say this guy has to be thrown out of office?
All right. I'm going to get someone, I think, up here from New York. Here we go.
Oh, good. That's just nice.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
We're not okay, but I think we'll stumble along quite nicely.
We'll stumble along. Okay. This is Jessica White from New York, and I want to thank Mr. LaRouche for his presence on the call tonight. And I've been listening carefully to all of the answers, which are phenomenal, to the questions that are being asked. And as a teacher and a New Yorker and part of the Manhattan Project, I have a question that deals with different organizations and trying to organize the people within those organizations. I'm a delegate to an organization that represents 3,000 other delegates and then represents all of the teachers of New York City. And the leadership of this organization, they steer clear of openly criticizing Obama. But then they introduce resolutions that they want teachers to support that clearly show that they realize that their lives are going down the tubes. So my question is, when they introduce these resolutions like workers' rights and single-payer health policies, and they want to defend Medicare and Social Security, and they want teachers to support the defense or the introduction of these things, what are your suggestions on not being sucked into these single issues and showing the connection between all of these issues and Glass-Steagall.
Okay.
Okay. Glass-Steagall is obviously, clearly, a mandatory policy because it's the very idea of the education of the citizen to be functional and to understand what the world is all about, at least in some degree, depends upon the Glass-Steagall principle, which is the right of the citizen to find out what the issue is. Now, the educational process in the United States, since the Bush family moved into the presidency business actively, has destroyed the ability of the citizenry. You can't teach it. You're not supposed to teach it. They're principles of education. We used to have them. They weren't perfect, but they represented that some people in the teaching business were able to actually be the exceptions who were the leaders of the progress of education of our citizens. That has been crushed. It is not allowed anymore. It's cut off. And therefore it's a fighting issue. Now, Obama has been really a very important factor in this thing. It's not just a New York issue. He's a generally universal idiot. He's really not an intelligent person, but he's an instrument of the British Empire. And he's committed great crimes against the citizens of the United States by intimidation. They're afraid of him. He's a very vicious man. He's evil. But that's not the problem. How did he get put into power? He would not honestly earn his election. It was run from the British Empire. And you look at the last phase, Hillary was not the greatest candidate that ever walked down the line, but she was precious compared to Obama. Obama is evil, purely evil. He's a force of evil. He has no real competence, no scientific competence, nothing significant. He's a fraud. But he has a backing, and the backing comes from the British Queen, from the British power. So he's a British stooge. And this has happened before. We do not provide, since the 20th century, the beginning of the 20th century, we no longer provide for the kind of educational program which is needed and which was understood up to the last century. We have been going downhill, and I had a fight against what I ran into it in education in the 1920s, when I was born and was crawling up into things, and I had a good experience of education because I knew what was wrong with it. I covered that pretty well, and we've done a lot of good work in that. But the point is, I understand the problem. We are not providing to the teachers who have competence, who had competence. We're not backing them up anymore. We are actually pulling them down. We're suppressing them. We're telling them to do this, give in, give in, give in. And we could, in New York City, look, in New York City, if we had our druthers, because I know New York City pretty well, if we had our druthers, and we had some of the kinds of leaders in New York that we had earlier, who had some power and influence in New York City, none of this would have been allowed. None of this would ever have happened. The Franklin Roosevelt tradition was still a very powerful influence. And what we can say, honestly, we must and can restore the kind of development of educational programs for our students, for our children, which will enable them, equip them to cope with the challenge of understanding science and human culture generally. And we have to do it. And we're going to have to make a fight about it. We're going to have to do it. We do have to be careful because we don't want to create unnecessary victims. because they will, people will take it out on citizens if they can. But in principle, we have to understand among ourselves that we have a devotion, we have a mission. And for the teachers or in other professions of relevance, we're going to have to work with them, assist them, to help defend them in their endeavors to do the job they want to do.
Okay, all right. We'll take another person up here. Okay.
Good evening. I'm suburban Philadelphia. My name is Catherine. You spoke to the issue of water being the problem to do away with this people in California and elsewhere. There is another equally important issue that I think a lot of people may not be aware of, and we just have to look up. It's weather geoengineering, or what some people call chemtrails. Can you address that, please, Mr. LaRouche, and thank you.
Well, what we have is the answer to that is we have the galactic principle. Now, the galactic principle was not something which was discovered as such. It was not invented at some point. It was invented a very long period of time ago. But the galactic system is the system that enables us to develop the water system which is necessary for human life and for related things. What has happened now, as in California, for example, the program is to prevent the development of the water program. We know, and we have experiments to show it, we have scientific principles which we know, galactic principles, and what the whole water system of the planet Earth, is located in this location. And that's where the water comes from. It comes from the galaxy, not from Earth. Yeah, there's water on Earth, but this main stock of water for mankind comes from the galaxy, from the context of the galaxy. Now, this is well known among scientists, but it's denied by politicians, the current politicians. They're lying. There is no reason why we cannot introduce a water reform which is based on galactic considerations, and to use the technologies which the study of the galactic process. Remember, the water system of planet Earth is located in the galaxy, the dominant part of that, located there. The question of managing life on Earth often involves the management, the ability to manage the galactic process. Now that is manageable. There are ways you can get at the management. There are also policies by which we can improve the water purification, because it's not just the water, it has to be processed in a way in which it can do the job it has to do. So there's no reason for allowing what is happening in California in particular, in the adjacent areas. There's no reason for that to be allowed to continue. It only exists because people like the governor of California is murdering the citizens of California. Because the California crisis should not have developed had the known science been applied to these questions. Now, the knowledge of these principles is limited. That's unfortunate. But the correction could be made. The solution can be found. The means exist. And close associates of mine are associated with this venture. So there's no excuse for accepting such a condition.
Well, I think, Lynn, in that respect, I've told some people that that these idiots who believe in global warming, they like to accuse their critics of being climate change deniers. I think we should accuse the idiots who don't agree with what you said. We should call them galaxy deniers. So maybe
we should call them brain deniers.
Brain deniers. There you go. All right.
They were given a brain department. They threw it away.
Okay. All right. That's definitely the case. So, okay, we'll take another person up here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Philippe Solet from New York. It's a pleasure to finally speak with you, Lynn. My question is, how can we, the people, convince our assembly people to sign in Glass-Steagall resolution in New York, and how would that affect our fight?
Well, my view is you don't have to go out and use physical violence, but you do have to do things and well, like Wall Street people. Now, Wall Street people generally, they're not really human. Right? That is, they could be human. They have biological potential of being human, but they have chosen to avoid that, the use of that mechanism, and they would like to have money instead. The problem, of course, is that Wall Street, the money in Wall Street is worthless. But people still worship it. Why do they worship it? Because it's something they don't know anything about. It's a typical kind of problem. I think we can try to educate some people on this. But what the real thing is, look, in New York City in particular, which I know fairly well, I spent a lot of time in New York City in the course of my life, and after that. In New York City, we have a rich load of ordinary citizens who would probably a little more old nowadays, teachers and so forth, who know about these things. We have a force in New York City areas where we have some of the smartest people in the United States in terms of our ordinary citizens. Get a little something like that. Used to have that around New York City, rather Boston. Boston has lost some of its brains under recent management. But New York City is really still the center of thinking of the United States, because it's the Alexander Hamilton symptom. Now, there were other people who made our nation as a nation, but Alexander Hamilton was the crucial figure, and he was assassinated by the British for all that reason. But Alexander Hamilton set forth a policy of economic policy. That economic policy is the only policy which has ever been suitable to the requirements of the people of the United States. That policy has been increasingly destroyed by the Confederacy, for example. Most of the presidents of the 20th century of the United States were incompetent or maliciously incompetent. We had a few presidents who were actually competent and represented what the United States represents. We have a concentration in New York City in particular among young people who had a decent education in those times. They were not always the richest or part of the population, but they were intelligent people. And they absorbed things. They had the ambition of being successful in terms of family life, in terms of the outcome of family life within the family itself. That was somewhat depressed. But it's still, in fact, New York City is the intellectual center of the United States. And that's a fact. You have other parts of the United States which share the same talent that New York City represents at its best. But New York City itself is, Boston used to be an important area. It's run down considerably since that time. But the point is that the situation in New York City is the intellectual center of the United States. And we have to understand that those citizens, who may not be the richest citizens in the whole place, but who have a family tradition, a devotion to success. We have immigrants who come in from different parts of the world into the United States or around it. And they share that. So that even though they're not the richest people in the world, which is not really necessarily a necessity, but the fact is that we have citizens who have come to reside in New York City, immigrants from various parts of the world, And they represent a family, a group of people. Probably, I would know what exact percentage, but I'd say a very large minority of the citizenry of New York City has this kind of special character, which is to be admired as a model in the United States. And I would say that the best way to look at it is to look at the achievements of Alexander Hamilton. He was the one who created the economic system of the United States, made it work, designed the principles.
Okay, so Lynn, how about if we take 3 more questions?
Okay.
All right. We're going to take, here we go. All right.
Hi, Lynn. This is Alonzo from Columbia, Maryland.
Alonzo, can you speak up because you're very muffled?
Okay. Hi, this is Alonzo from Columbia, Maryland. And my question is, with the recent events with the oil spill in California, what is your view about the environmental issue in the United States?
What were you referring to in California, Alonzo? I couldn't quite get that.
The recent oil spill that they had.
Okay. All right, I got it. Okay, very good. Lynn, he was asking about, there was an oil spill recently in California. He was asking what your view is of the environmental issues in the United States.
It's terrible. The policy of the United States is awful. It's evil. What they're doing, for example, in California, they're doing this mining operation, so-called. And what they're doing is they're destroying the ability to maintain progress, physical progress, in California. And this is done by the crackers who have these projects, and they are destroying the resources of California itself. They're ruining the nation, that region. And the same thing is going on in Texas. Texas is being destroyed by the mining operations, reckless operations. What happened to with the British operation in the Gulf area, which destroyed a whole part of this function some years ago. And it was a British operation. And so this kind of operation should be outlawed, immediately outlawed. Because when you do mining, which destroys the ability to maintain the productivity of a part of the territory of the United States, and that does it maliciously, unnecessarily, it's a crime. And the guy should be in the jug. He should be in prison for a while and caused to reflect upon their errors of their ways.
Okay. I'm going to take another question up here. Okay.
Hi, Lynn. This is Edward from Delaware, and I'd like to thank you for conceiving of this organization several times in various generations of it, and for conceiving of the IDB, which is now being created, conceiving of the EIR, conceiving of the beam defense weapon, and many other beautiful conceptions that you've given us, including with collaboration with people like Helga. And I'd like to ask you, how did you first find out about Vernadsky's work, since it's been suppressed? You can hardly find anything about it in our history, just like Leibniz was suppressed in his age. And finally, last question, how do you deal with, what's the best way to deal with somebody who says you don't use the word evil? You can't use that word.
Why not?
I
mean, that Hitler was evil, don't you know? No, and that was the law. The British monarchy is evil. What do you mean you can't talk about evil? I mean, that's the most important subject to discuss about it on any occasion. The evil, the force of evil. If you look at the history of the presidents of the United States, you find that in the main, the history of the presidents of the United States were mostly evil. Were regrettable creatures who should not have been allowed to slither around the territory. No, that's the point. What you have to do is you have to fight to maintain what is good. And what is good is not somebody's opinion. It's a question of, look, mankind is a precious creature. There's nothing known in the universe which is a plausible replacement for mankind. Mankind is God's own choice. That's the simple way to put it. And the powers that mankind has, the noetic powers, the ability to create new things, to create the existence of new forms of things in the universe, is specific to mankind. We don't know of any other source which can do that. And therefore, our main problem and our main responsibility is we, especially those of us who have the privilege of understanding science and what science means in terms of practice, we have the responsibility as leaders in education and related things. We have the responsibility of informing children growing up, adults, so forth, and giving them the insight into what mankind really is, what mankind can be. And we have to promote that and that knowledge and that outlook. We have to know what the great art is, why the common art today is such trash. But the things that we could know, that we sometimes had known as mankind, these things must be understood, located, and supported. We need an educational program in that sense, which enables the average citizen to have access to the understanding of man's power to develop the universe, at least the nearby part, the galactic part.
Okay. I'll take one other person up here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, this is Patrick from Connecticut. Thank you, Mr. LaRouche, for being on the call. I recently had a great opportunity to unite the small and large businesses in Connecticut. The governor of Connecticut proposed a $2 billion tax increase. They had a hearing, a public hearing on May 11th in Hartford, and over 1,000 people showed up for it, and from all over the state. And after they testified, I spoke with them, and they were like just livid, because this would put businesses out, small and large, and also jobs would be terminated. So my plan is to unite the majority of the people to uprise and join the LaRouche movement for peace, and give us the overwhelming unity for the American spirit.
Okay.
That's my... Okay, simply, there is a very simple response to that. Simple in the sense of it's neat. Not simplistic, but neat. The point is, we live in a system which is really dominated by the influence of the British system, the British Empire. And what we had is the American system has been diluted. The Bushes, for example, the Bush family, starting with that old criminal, that pro-Nazi criminal, Prescott Bush. And the whole Bush family is a tribe of some kind of wild savages which shouldn't be allowed into politics. And so this influence, and the influence of Wall Street, which is the same thing, what we have to do is we have to shut down Wall Street. Look, Wall Street is totally useless. It's worse than useless. It's destroying the United States. It's destroying the citizens of the United States. It's destroying their families, destroying everything, destroying education, destroying science, everything. So what we have to do is get rid of those kinds of people in the sense of putting them out of business. We have to shut down Wall Street. Wall Street must be obliterated. We must go back to Glass-Steagall. It's a simple, very simple thing. If Glass-Steagall had not been repealed, we wouldn't have the mess we have today in the United States. So we've got to go back to Glass-Steagall. You've got to go back to that kind of tradition. And that may not be an adequate measure, but it certainly is one of the measures which is essential to be contributing to the future of the United States. The health care of the United States, the health care of our citizens. It's a crime. The way the health care is delivered is a crime. It's not done by the doctors. It's imposed upon the doctors. And the quality of medicine we used to have in terms of the standard of practice of medicine is being destroyed. Or it's so costly, most people can't get help. The education system is so corrupt, so rotten, that the student in schools doesn't actually get any useful information. So we have to come to the point that we can even go to very simple things on the scale of comparisons and say that we've been cheated. And we've been cheated, especially since about the 1980. Since about that time. Since the last, and then we had Bill Clinton was actually a pretty good president. We may have criticized him on a number of things, but I know him personally well, and he's a pretty good guy. And he was one of the better presidents we had in the crop recently. So if we get back to some of those things that had been useful to the citizens of the United States, restored that, we would be moving on the way backward. Back up to what we had sought to do beforehand. And we can do it now. But what we have to do is mobilize our citizens who have the courage to recognize that what their rights really are, what they have a right to demand, really should be. And we have to get rid of Wall Street. We have to get rid of what it represents. We have to get rid of the bushes. As Moses would say, burn the bushes. Especially Prescott Bush and his outfit. And all the crooks which have taken over from the United States. And all the presidents which should never have been elected. Because the best presidents have always been assassinated. It's the usual routine of the British Empire. So that's what we have the means. If we have the insight and the courage to see the insight that we should recognize, if we can assemble ourselves around that cause, we can win. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to us, but we have a chance of winning. And the chance of winning is the thing that's most worth doing.
Okay. Well, I think, Lynn, with that, what you just said there is a fitting time to call here this evening at the end, and I can tell you that I know for all the people who have been participating in this activist conference call for the last several years, we dearly appreciate you getting us on with us this evening. I think it was a critical moment to have engaged in the dialogue and the discussion that we had tonight. And I think, Lynn, you've given everybody on the call tremendous challenge and inspiration for the kind of fight that we need in the upcoming days. As I indicated at the very beginning, and talking with our coordinators up in New York, New Jersey, that they are particularly focused right now on the event on June the 6th, which is a day where we want to send a message to the world that the American tradition, Lynn, that you've identified in what you've said this evening, that American tradition is live, well, and growing. So we want to make that June 6th event in New York something which sends a message throughout the country and throughout the world, and it's a crucial part of our offensive over the course of the next few weeks. So I think, Lynn, from what you've said this evening, it's a challenge to everybody on the call here tonight to really organize, to upgrade their activity and their organizing of their friends and people they don't know. And I think we've got a very clear focal point around the revival of the presidency and the event we have coming up, which I would encourage everybody here tonight to really pledge themselves to build for. If you're in New York, we want everyone to work on getting 10 people to come to the event. If you can get to New York for that event, that would be excellent. And if around the country we build other events in coordination with that June 6th event, that would be absolutely critical. So we'll be getting more on that out on the website. And again, Lynn, I'd like to thank you again for having this discussion with us this evening. And I'm not sure after the last answer you gave I'm not sure that there's anything more you'd like to say, Lynn, but if you'd like to, go right ahead.
No, I'm quite content. I think we can have future occasions to fill up any vacant areas of our discussion.
Okay, great. All right, that's fantastic. So what we'll do, we record these discussions, Lynn, so people will be able to go back and listen to any of the answers that they feel they want to hear again. I'm hoping that the discussion might even get transcribed. And so here, this is John Asher signing off for our activist conference call here for May 21st. I'd like to thank everybody for participating, and everybody I know would like me to thank Lyndon LaRouche for being with us here this evening. And we'll hopefully be able to do this again. And thanks everybody, and we'll get the recording out to you tomorrow. Look for the webcast tomorrow night on the website, and we'll be back with you next week with our next LaRouche PAC activist conference call. So thank you very much, and that concludes our call for this evening. Everybody, I wish you a good evening and good night to you, Lynn and Helga.
Good.
Okay, all right. That's it. Bye-bye now.